The issue of climate change is a distraction. This is not to deny that climate change is in fact real, and yes, without a doubt, humanity is responsible for much of that warming. And if left unaddressed, we will suffer catastrophic consequences. However, it is often characterized as the defining issue of our age. It is not. It is a distraction from the root cause of climate change. And ultimately, that root cause is mindless consumerism. Here's the problem. Our politicians and leading intellectuals appear to take the position that all we need to do is to transition our economy from one based on fossil fuels to one based on ideally renewable or at least less harmful sources of energy. I'm all for that transition, but the message they preach is that once we transition to a non-carbon dioxide emitting source of energy, we should be free to continue on our current path to quote-unquote prosperity and GDP growth that has brought us to where we are today. Not so. As I mentioned in my book Health in Flames, we face at least 3 intertwined disasters, all ultimately due to mindless consumerism. Climate change is one of those 3. The other 2 are the dramatic loss of biodiversity on Earth in the last few decades and the rise of chronic disease in America and abroad. Think about how this works. What if we could instantly transition to a source of energy like nuclear fusion? What if we were suddenly able to provide everyone cheap and limitless sources of energy with almost no pollution? Here's the problem with that. If we fail to address mindless consumption, then transitioning to a cheap, limitless supply of energy will only accelerate mindless consumerism. That consumption would then further accelerate the loss of biodiversity because we're using more resources, and it would further amplify the chronic disease crises that we're facing today. So, solving the climate crisis in isolation is not enough. Failure to address the underlying cause of mindless consumerism ultimately translates to a worsening of our health and our well-being. Why so, you might ask? Because lowering costs of energy will translate to further savings, and that means that more people have more money to spend, which will lead to increased consumption. Let's think about this carefully. Saving money leads to spending more money. The problem is that as we save money on energy costs, consumption will go up. Why so? Because as people save money, they have more money to spend. That will spur consumption. According to our politicians, whether on the left or the right, whose seemingly overarching goal for our society is to grow GDP, this is desirable. But they are wrong. That very consumer-oriented lifestyle is likely to lead to a further decline in biodiversity due to resource use. Such a loss in biodiversity is not just tragic for wildlife, but likely to lead to a rise in infectious pathogens and more pandemics. And as explained in my previous video, this is likely to lead to a further worsening of our health. There is a better way, one that will ultimately leave us all happier, healthier, wealthier, more engaged, and simply better.